Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, hosted by Aaron Locks and sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. Join us live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as Aaron sits down with coaches, recreation professionals, and industry leaders to discuss youth sports, athlete development, coaching excellence, and the positive impact sports have on young people and communities. Tune in for expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical strategies to help young athletes succeed. In this episode, Youth Sports Mastery explores how Parks and Rec can help more kids play, grow, and thrive through youth sports.
Welcome to this week's Youth Sports Mastery. You know, each week I get a chance to chat about youth sports. It's obviously my passion. I've been doing this for over 4 decades. Yes, that means I'm old, but I'm having fun doing it, right? The reason why I wanted to dive in, I'm really excited this week, is the ability to have more Parks and Rec professionals that are in the space of youth sports. And I love the fact when I get people with 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years experience, because we can really dive in and have a chat. You know, those that know me may think that I'm anti-club or anti-elite travel or even, playing at the higher levels. I'm really not. The conversation I want to have each week is really more geared around what can we do to get more kids playing sports, full stop. The reality is the stats that we all know are scary, right? When I was a kid, and yes, I'm old, 8 or 9 out of 10 kids played a sport. And now we're finding that that's not happening. And what we're finding, unfortunately, is that it's like 5 out of 10 kids. So what do we need to do to step through that to get to the other side? That's what we're talking about. And how can we bring more kids back? So if you're a Parks and Rec professional, I'm challenging you. The premise is that I think working together, the private and public partnership, whether it's the National Academy of Athletics, my day job, or other organizations, to help bring youth sports back to those communities. One of my guests a while back said that, and I loved it, he said that we got to keep them on the courts instead of the courtrooms. And we all know that the most dangerous time for a kid in America, the latchkey kids, I was one of, is basically between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Right? Mom and dad have to work, especially nowadays, more and more people have to work. And if that's going on, how do we help those kids to have the opportunity to have a safe life and a positive experience? For me, there was a lady named Tia. My mom was a self-employed artist and my dad wasn't home. So Tia down at Tam Valley School, she was the leader. In fact, she's still there. Crazy. And she would just take us through the day. Now with the after school enrichment and so many opportunities, the crazy part about this is that there's tremendous amount of opportunities, whether it's directly with schools or with Parks and Rec. But ultimately, I'm a huge believer that if a child gets to play sports after school each day, even if it's not, let's say it's not the competitive side, but just fun using their body, it's so much better for them. If a child sits all day in class, okay, they're sitting all day for 6 hours. And granted, they get a little bit of movement, but, that's tough, right? So when they're after school, are they going to go home and sit and play video games and hang out? Or are they going to play sports after school? I got to imagine if we can train them, I feel like we could do so good. You know what I mean? We could help kids live better lives and move their bodies. And then when it was time for them to jump in and do their homework or whatever it is, they would literally be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? We will have worn them out and give them a chance to make that happen. So what I want to do today with my guest, Jason, who'll be joining us in a minute, we're going to talk everything youth sports. We're diving in from the Parks and Rec to the youth space. And some of this is going to be identifying ways that what we can do to help bring more kids back to the youth sports space, back to engage, to play, because we all know that there's a mental health crisis that's going on. And in our kids, it's one of the best ways, in my opinion, the best life skill teaching tools is youth sports, learning to fail and succeed and all the other factors across the board. So we're going to go and dive in, and we're going to dig in kind of deep today because my guest has a lot of experience. I don't want to let you know too much until I get to see his amazing face on this thing and we get to dive in from there, coming all the way from Arizona. So let's go ahead and run the spots. When we come out the other side, we're going to dive in. You guys are going to get to meet my guest, and we are going to have a great conversation. All right. Chat soon.
It didn't start with a big studio. It didn't start with a massive audience. It started with a simple idea. One conversation, one camera, one episode. Back then, DPRS Media Network was just a vision. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a purpose. To tell stories that mattered. Stories from the Parks and Recreation community. Stories of leadership, passion, impact, and the people making a difference every single day. Episode by episode, that vision began to grow. More conversations, more voices, more people who believed in what we were building. What started as a show became something much bigger. A place where people felt seen, a place where ideas were shared, a place where the Parks and Rec community could connect, learn, and inspire one another. And today, we celebrate a major milestone. 500 episodes, 500 stories, 500 moments, 500 reasons to keep moving forward. But this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of our next chapter. In the months ahead and in the years to come, DPRS Media Network is growing into something even greater. We are building something truly special for the Parks and Recreation community. Something designed to bring people closer, to create stronger connections, to open new opportunities, and to continue serving the people who inspire everything we do. We are also expanding our reach through new partnerships, working with organizations who believe in our mission, partners who share our vision for community, leadership, and impact. And beyond the screen, we're showing up in more places than ever before, attending conferences, meeting leaders face-to-face, building connections that strengthen our community. Because DPRS has never been just about content. It has always been about connection. To everyone who has been with us, from episode 1 to episode 500, thank you. This milestone belongs to all of you. Here's to how it all started. And here's to everything still to come. The future of DPRS Media Network starts now.
Welcome back to the Youth Sports Mastery Show. I'm Aaron Locks, and I am here in my lovely studio in Northern California, just hanging out. We're going to have Jason join us in just a minute. So when I get the chance, I don't get to pontificate very often, but let me just throw some ideas out here so we can have this conversation. And by the way, those on Facebook, thank you for throwing the message, and that's a great question kind of for there, which is that we'll start there. The question is, how do we connect with the Parks and Rec professionals and empower them to be able to drive the bus to help this lift this thing back? And you know, when questions like that come up, no better than bringing on the experts. Team, let's bring out Jason, if you could for me. That would be great. I want to introduce Jason. What's happening? Welcome.
How we doing? Sorry for the delay. Sorry
no
for
problem,
jumping
man.
on late.
That's how life is, man. Especially in the Parks and Rec space, right?
Exactly.
Right on. Well, and due to that, you're from the city of Surprise, Arizona. There we go. Surprise. Here we are. Right. So
Perfect. I like it.
Jason, do me a favor because I know this is your first week in Parks and Rec, and you're super nervous, right? I'm sure right now. How long have
Yeah.
you been doing in the Parks and Rec space?
I've been a Parks and Rec professional, meaning full time, for 22 years now. And before that, I was part time for about 5 years. So 27 years altogether, which is so weird to even say out loud.
Right. Those numbers, when you catch up, you're like, oh my goodness. And by the way, when we both started, more hair, less gray, better physique, all the different factors that go along with it, right?
Yeah, I definitely blame my career on my physique. That's what I'll go with.
Yeah, they say, oh, you're in Parks and Rec, all you do is play all the time. Well, we play around a little bit. We're not having a good time, but let's be honest here. You know what I mean? That's a whole different deal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's do this. I always like to find out. For me, I know what young Aaron was doing. I was, playing sports and throwing rocks and skipping whatever I was doing. What was it like for young Jason when you were a kid? Was your nickname Jace, or what was up? And what were you doing as a kid growing up playing? What were you doing?
Oh man, this is going to be a fun one. I love going down memory lane, so thank you. So let's see. As a young kid, so let's say 9 to 13, played a lot of little league, just traditional, flat out, show up, swing the bat, get some Twinkies after the game, have fun, and that was about it. Played a little baseball, never played football, never did anything like that. Then when I got to high school, played some high school football, and when you talk about nicknames, I actually grew up in Riverside, California.
Okay.
And in Riverside, California, people don't know me as Jason, Jay, something like that. And you're going to laugh. People know me as Mole, Mole, like an underground digging machine, right? So first day of pads, I get smashed into the ground by some beast. And my coach goes, man, you look like a mole that's digging for dirt. I'm just like, what does that even mean? But yeah, it stuck with me. And on my Letterman's jacket, it says Mole. I mean, my name too, but everybody knows me as Mole or Molinator. And it stuck with me for, gosh, what is it, 18? So almost, oh my God, almost 30 years. And I go to Riverside, my buddies, if we hang out, it's, hey, Mo, what are you doing tonight? Oh,
There you go.
same old, same old. But yeah, so football after that. And I know we'll probably get to this later, but I feel very blessed in that when I grew up playing sports, I had absolutely zero pressure from my parents. Well, my coach, totally different story. He was a pressure cooker, but that's what high school coaches are supposed to be like, right? You get to that level sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, from my parents, from my family, no pressure to do something. I had to be involved in something, but it didn't have to be, pretty obvious I wasn't getting a scholarship to go play, football at Notre Dame or anything. So we knew that wasn't in the cards necessarily. So it was just staying active and doing something. So I feel really blessed with that.
I have to interrupt, but let me ask you a question. So when you started out in sports, okay, so what role do you think that like you played sports with your friends, you played football, but you played probably dodgeball like I did, and handball and kickball and foursquare and throw the rock at each other and dodge, whatever it was. We did have games. You played that. So what role would you say that youth sports, not just organized sports, but just in general, had impact on your life and your development in terms of growing to who you are today?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one thing that I always think back to is how easy it was to make friends. And my wife often says that I haven't met somebody that I don't become friends with. And she also jokes with me that she says that I quote unquote fall in love too quickly. And I think what she means by that is I usually try to take people at face value, like, hey, this person wants to talk to me about something. Let's have a good conversation and find each other on social media, and then we're friends until they burn me or something, right? But I think youth sports playing as a kid, whatever it might be, helped me to be able to feel more comfortable talking to just anybody. I mean, I'll talk to anybody about anything. I love people. I love being around people. Yeah. And youth sports, whether organized or not, had a huge role in that, because when I was growing up, and probably the same as you, we didn't have cell phones, internet, Wi-Fi, what the heck is that, type thing. It was, hey, we're going to go ride a skateboard we're going to go ride our bikes and have a rope and a skateboard right behind it and go drag each other down the street, or we're going to
climb a tree, right? You know what I mean? Right? Yeah.
I was never much of a tree climber, but tree climber, but I definitely, we used to play a lot of wiffle ball, just go in the backyard and play wiffle ball.
Yeah, nothing better. And it's funny as you say it, because I was thinking of my daughter when she was going into high school, and I talked to some of the parents from friends that she had, And it was interesting because their parents were nervous about that transition from middle school to high school, even from fifth grade to junior high. And I never had that fear or concern because both my son and my daughter, they played so many sports, they knew everybody. So when they got there, like you said, they were part of the deal, right? Like when she went to high school, she was cheering during the summer, and then it was basketball season and volleyball, all these different things that she played, so whatever it was. And it kind of opened that door for her to have a built-in network of most of the athletes that are playing sports in school. There's at least a chance of having some sort of healthy minded mentality, right?
Absolutely. No, for sure. The level of play that you have as a kid, I think, really shapes who you are as a person. And even today, I mean, we do a lot of interviews for part-time positions and everything like that here. And I have actually on my team here with Surprise, I have two ladies who are beyond talented, great, hardworking individuals. And guess what? They played high school and collegiately at a high level of softball, but they are also very innovative. They're also very personable, and you don't get that without some level of play as you're growing up. So
Right.
when we interview people, if you're an athlete and you're somebody that knows what a team sport is all about, or how to talk to people that you don't know, that's going to set you up really well for success in the world of Parks and Rec. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a huge part of it.
And the other part is they know how to compete and to work on a team. They know about failure and how to get them so like they quit when something doesn't go right. I mean, there's this whole thing, and again, we're preaching the choir here, but okay, so I want to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit. So in your youth in Riverside, it's funny, I got a very good friend, Steve Smith, who coached in the WNBA. He was from that area,
Okay.
as well. So, but probably around the same time. So how did your journey lead into working in parks and recreation, and particularly in the sports sector? And the reason I ask the question is that I think that I love how if you get in with a municipality and you work hard, you may not be at that one city that long, but you can ping around and work your way up and develop the skill set and the opportunity to do amazing things, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, another great question. So, after football ended, my dad basically said, get a job, go in the military, go to school part time and get a job, or get out. So I had pretty clear options.
Yeah.
I chose get a job. So, going to school part time, didn't really take too seriously. And I started working at McDonald's, super glorious, great benefits, great pay, wonderful work environment, great leadership, the whole thing, right? This is not a McDonald's sponsorship. I'm totally lying. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Worst job you could ever have.
I was gonna say I don't know what McDonald's you're at, but surprise, yeah.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah.
So out of nowhere, my dad calls me one day. My dad was the fire chief for the city I would eventually start in, and he goes, "Hey, they're hiring for some youth flag football coaches here in Colton. The city's Colton, California." I
Okay.
was like, "Excuse me, I can get paid to coach flag football?" So I immediately gave McDonald's my 2 weeks and left and went to go work for the city of Colton. At the time, it was considered neighborhood services,
Mm.
and just a very, very small department. They had three great community centers, but not a whole lot of activity going on at first. So they had brought somebody in who was doing a lot of youth sports, trying to start a lot of youth sports programs. So started coaching flag football, got paid for it, loved it. Loved the progression of seeing the kids go from couldn't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time to throwing the ball around and finding some real athletes that played out there. And then from there, my one of my mentors, her name's Deb Farrar. Shout out Deb. She's the director now in Colton, but she for some reason believed in me and goes, "Hey, how would you like to coordinate some of these leagues?" I was like, "Sure," you know. And so she developed me. She showed me how to do things the right way. I was a very competitive person coming
Yeah.
out of high school. I still am to this day, to be honest with you. So her first thing she told me, because actually she came in after I had already been doing a little bit of the coordination, and I'd
Mhm.
made some major mistakes. In fact, we always joke about it that one of her first days, I had gone and ordered all the jerseys for the youth basketball program,
Oh,
and at
wow.
the time we had jerseys that were themed for each team, right? So you had the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Lakers, etc. Well, one of the coaches was like, I really don't like the way these jerseys fit. They're a little bit too loose and this and that. I was like, hey, no problem, man. I got you. I went and ordered an entire new set of jerseys for this team and the other team that asked for it. So I spent in the neighborhood of like $5,000 on jersey when our budget was like 1,000.
Yeah. Right.
And she goes, I should absolutely fire you. And I was like, I understand. But
Yeah.
she didn't. Instead, she said, hey, this is a learning moment. Here's how we're going to do the jerseys from now on. Here's how we're going to do the officials. She brought her brother, who's also in the park and rec area, to come in and kind of help align the officials to what we wanted it to look like. And I started to, this is going to sound so dorky, but I started to kind of see the magic in coordinating these things and just the experience of like, oh, wow, that kid started as somebody that couldn't really, shoot the ball. Now he's making layups with no problem, that kind of thing.
Right.
But her philosophy was non-competitive.
Mm.
So I had a major issue with that at first, and we went back and forth for a while. So we came to a happy medium, and we said, okay, we'll keep standings, we'll keep score, but in addition to the winner of the game, right, we will have sportsmanship points awarded for whatever, right? So if there was like fans yelling inappropriate things, minus a point. If there was fans encouraging, there's a plus point, that kind of thing. So
Love
what we
that.
ended up having was we'd have these regional tournaments that we would send the kids to of other municipalities, and the kids that went from our city were decent, not bad,
Yeah.
but they were good sports and they always represented well. And it's funny because we would give sportsmanship awards at these regional tournaments. Colton would clean house on the sportsmanship awards, but we'd get our doors beat in the actual game. But it's because we were doing it right. We had true rec teams in some of these other cities. I'm not going to name them by names, but if they're watching, they knew who they are.
Yeah.
Would put together all-star teams, and it was very mismatched, right? But
Well, and I
I
think,
really,
I'm sorry to cut you off. This is very interesting to me. I think the piece of this is that are you looking at long-term gains versus short-term gains, right?
bingo.
You think about it, we won it at third grade and fifth grade. And again, it's fun. And we all want to win. I'm competitive. I want to kick your butt. We're playing chess. Let's do it. And then we'll go have a man soda, reset, do it again. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, there seems to be this misnomer that if your child is not winning the games at 8 years old, they're a loser. Instead of, man, what are the other things that they can learn from those experiences so that they can become successful in the real game, which is life, right? Isn't that what you're talking
Exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head. And Deb Farrar, once again, the director now in Colton, to this day, you look at their program and it's rinse and repeat. It's sportsmanship first. It's making sure that kids do learn other things aside from just winning and cutthroat mentality. And there are a lot of good athletes that have come from Colton and have come from some of those programs. The name that sticks out that I always think about is a kid named Sharice Wright, who went from Colton youth sports programs to he went and unfortunately he was drafted. He ended up going to college at USC, which I won't hold that against him, but he went to USC, had a great career there, got drafted into the NFL, played in the NFL for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
now he goes back to Colton High School quite a bit and, does clinics and, sponsors teams and gives out helmets. And those are the kind of people that you breed when you do these things at the low level right away as much as possible and really drill it into their heads that it's not got to be this competitive environment.
So there was several defining moments for me that I remember that were pivots. The one I remember because I thought I was pretty good, and I went down and I got to play with a guy named James Worthy and some guys, and within
Decent.
well, he's not horrible, but I realized in about 5 minutes, yeah, I'm not going to make it at the pro level. So it was a defining moment, and it's interesting, right? Pat Riley wrote me a letter recommendation to coach at a high school.
Mm.
I didn't get the job.
Oh, jeez.
Coach Riley, yes, right. It turned out they had to hire a teacher, but anyways, but the bottom defining moment. But it's interesting because most of my defining moments as I look back on life really based on failure rather than success, right?
Yep.
So give me a defining moment. Share when no one's paying attention. Give me a defining moment in your life that you're willing to share a little bit about. How did it take you? We're in our therapy session, right? How did it take you from where you were to moving forward, a defining moment? Because I think it's so important. We have to recognize these defining moments. Don't wait till the end of your life. You look back and go, right. But to learn from it and to grow from it, to glow from it as we go forward in life, right?
Yeah, no, and I love that story about Pat Riley writing you a letter and you still didn't get it. That's crazy. If
I
somebody
have
wrote a letter of
the letter on
reference,
my wall. I still have the letter on my wall.
I would, yeah, that's gold plated right there. Pat Riley's the man. I have a couple. I would say the first one is right after high school. My initial intent was to be a high school football coach, athletic director type route. and a friend of mine, Kevin Rega, we played football together, and we started coaching the freshman team at my alma mater right after we graduated. So, we're thinking we're real cool guys. We know what we're talking about and whatever. And so we're doing this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Is this volunteer? Like, it was so loosely done that I didn't know if I was getting paid or not. Well, we got paid, but it was like a stipend that wouldn't hardly, even back then, pay for my gas.
Right.
So that was definitely a defining moment where I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to get a real big boy job here. So started kind of still going to school and doing all that, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna work instead and try to get a full-time job as just a guy that works a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I would have some success going to interviews for different cities and full-time positions. This is still as I'm with the city of Colton as a part-time rec specialist. But the defining moment for me, I have to say, you talk about failure. So I go to this interview, and I'm just going to throw it out. They're probably not there, but I was the city of Anaheim, and it was a full-time position with the city of Anaheim. And I remember thinking this would be the greatest thing ever because I'm an Angels fan, I'm a Ducks fan. Disneyland's right down the street, and I'm working for the city, right? Whatever, it would be perfect. Full-time benefits. Oh my gosh, I make so much money. So I go into this interview thinking I'm pretty hot stuff, right? Like, oh, I know how to do brackets, and I know how to schedule leagues, and I've had 2 staff report to me once. And so I go in, and I have my suit on, and I go into the interview room, and I go and I shake the panel's hands. It was 2 people. Shake the panel's hands, and I go and I sit down, right? Just sat down. They look at me, they go, "We didn't ask you to sit down yet." I was like, "What? Oh my." So instead they go, "See that whiteboard over there?" I said, "Yep." They go over there and draw a 12-team bracket, double elimination, and I want to see how you can, essentially how you can build a bracket. So I did that, no problem.
Yeah.
But my mindset was already so screwed up because of that exact moment that I was like, I talked myself out of the job already.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that's a defining moment is because I went to probably 7 other interviews for full-time jobs between that moment and the one that I finally got. And I was defeated before I walked in because of that moment. I felt like, wow, I was so cocky that I went in like that. And it took me a good amount of time to be able to get back on my horse and be able to interview without feeling ashamed. So I finally got a full-time job I had to go outside the public sector, went to the private sector and worked for the Highland YMCA, which was fine, but definitely not my cup of tea.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's definitely a fail forward kind of moment where you just get humbled so hard, and you just got to kind of, now that I'm older, there's been tons of failure. I fail every day.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like I learn the best lessons when I fail.
Yeah. And it's funny. So Joe Montana, I got to work with him, and his thing that he taught was fail fast, fail forward, right? I know you're out there, yeah, I'm name dropping, whatever, but that's a thing, you know what I mean? Fail fast, fail forward. If you get knocked down, you got 40 seconds to reset, get the mud out of your helmet and get yourself up and tell the team, let's go. And that's what I love about Parks and Rec. I mean, whenever I hang around Parks and Rec professionals, that's why I love what I do. I'm a Parks and Rec professional on the other side of it, right? And we support it. And I love you people, man. It's good stuff. So, all right. I obviously have energy. You obviously have energy. I have my green tea this morning, so we're ready to go. My mojo's up. But what keeps you passionate about youth sports and serving the communities today? Like, you know what? There's a lot of people out there, but I'm curious, man. What is it that keeps you passionate about your job?
Oh man, what a great question. I'm a passionate person in general. I don't do anything slow. I don't do anything, quiet. I love to live life, and I love to have fun. And I think that my passion at this point in my career as an administrator comes from seeing the success of my staff. When they have a great event, just being out there and experiencing like, wow, I didn't need to even say anything or really do anything other than sign a few papers to make this thing look like gold, right? Like thinking back, not necessarily in sports, but we had a Dino event, Dino Days last Friday.
Yeah.
And small little event, but my staff pulled it off. It was like her first event she'd ever coordinated, and to see the excitement in the event, to see her face when she would get kudos from everybody that was there, it was just a beautiful moment for me. And I've had so many of those opportunities throughout the years of seeing staff really have that aha moment where like, oh dang, I'm actually pretty good at this, and oh dang, I actually really like this job.
Jason, you just connected the dots. You said this when you were coaching and you saw the kids that learn. And so realistically, even though you're a big time, Parks and Rec professional, you're still coaching. You're right. It's the same thing, right? And
Yep.
and I love that you're connected at odds, because it's like me. I remember when I ran my first camp and I saw the kids and I'm like, man, they're digging this. When I coached it at 16, I was asked to coach the middle school team, and watching what they're doing, I'm like, this is good stuff.
It is.
Yeah. And every day you have a new challenge, right? For you, I don't know about you, but I come to the same office when I'm not traveling, right? Not a bad office, but I come here every day, but never is the day the same.
No, absolutely not. And I tell people that all the time, young professionals, your day will never, ever, ever be the same in Parks and Rec. I mean, the things that I've dealt with in my career, you would not even believe if I told you half of them. But to answer your question about what keeps me motivated as far as youth sports goes, I love, so youth sports in general is really where I was kind of my bread and butter as I was coming up through the ranks to Parks and Rec, which makes sense because I'm a sports fanatic. You think you're a sports fanatic? You've never met a sports fanatic like me. I walked into the office today and I'm yelling at everybody, "It's draft day, baby, let's go." And everybody's looking at me like, what? It's what? Well, that's just me, right? So anyways, having the opportunity to still see some of these young athletes move on to that next level, and like, anytime I see somebody that comes from a city that I worked for, I'm like, hey, maybe my program's had a little tiny part in them getting to that level.
Yeah.
But more so now, City of Surprise, and I'm just going to brag, the team here that has the sports programs, they are absolutely the standard. I'm just going to call it. It is what it is. The standard. They are fantastic. They do a great job. They work hard. We have thousands of kids running through our programs every year. And we are actually, and I know we'll get to this later, we don't have a little league. We don't have an AYSO. We don't have, surprise scorpion, travel this, travel that. Those things exist, and we try to give those folks some field space because there are kids that need that other advanced area. But it is probably 10% that, 90% city programming out on those fields. Where I came from in Mesa, and no shade at Mesa, I loved my time in the city of Mesa. They have a million fields and they're all beautiful. They take a lot of pride in their parks. We do here too. But the onus there, the real push there is let's get these fields rented every second of every day. And it's always the battle of like maintenance saying, hey, we need to have some rest time. And I'd come in like, well, no, we got this tournament coming in, and a lot of, tourism dollars and all that. Both ways are fine. But for me now, it's my mission really. And that's why one of the main reasons of why I wanted to come here to the City of Surprise is that I knew that they were the standard when it comes to youth sports. I don't need to tweak anything that these guys are doing at all, truly. Maybe some hiccups along the road with like an injury or a parent complain or a coach complain or whatever, but it's really more now developing the staff so that they can be administrators. But now I have the freedom and the luxury because I have amazing bosses, and I'm not just saying this because they'll probably be listening, but I really want to get back to my roots, which is trying to improve youth sports across the country, really, for everybody that plays, because I was taught how to do it the right way. I was shown how to do it the right way. And now I want everybody to do it.
That's a perfect. We're going to press pause because we're up against, got to run the spots here in a minute, but real quick. So when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit about the challenges in youth sports, the opportunities in youth sports, some of the gaps between parents, coaches, and program structures, just like you said. So we will be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. See you on the other side.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you guys are diving in and sticking with us. Jason, when we left the conversation, right, we were talking about what's going on down in Surprise, and I love hearing that because I'm a huge fan, and I believe that a majority of youth sports programs should be based around the recreational model, right? And you and I both agree on that. The more they play, and I've talked to a lot of at the pro levels and college coaches, they all say the same thing: play everything and across the board. So we beat that drum pretty hard. But I want to talk a little bit more about what you're seeing. So you guys have a lot of kids. What are 2, 3, maybe 4 challenges that you see that are going on in general in the youth sports space? Because I preach it all the time, but you know what? Let's get another guy's opinion. What do you think? Talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, and I would say I can't speak selfishly just from Surprise, but from what I've heard from Arizona folks, California folks when I worked there, I think number one is probably just facilities. There's such a lack of facilities that are open to parks and recreation, growing parks and recreation programs and communities. I mean, here in Surprise, we're using Dysart School District facilities. We're using our college partner in Ottawa University, and then we're using our rec centers as well. But with as many kids as we have, there's always going to be a wait list because we just can't get all those kids in the door. It's physically impossible when you're trying to get practice time, game times, et cetera. So facility space indoor, especially, I think is much needed.
Yeah.
And then you talk about number 2, and this is probably tied for number 1, other than the fact that, I feel like this is a challenge that people can actually tackle, whereas funding is such a premium. The facilities are not cheap. Those are a little bit more kind of pie in the sky. So number 2, a more simplistic yet realistic goal that I have is to really try to, like you guys, and that's why when I found your stuff, I was so excited, is really stress the importance of park and recreation style sports programs. We have so many amazing professionals in the field that are doing great things and truly care, and they're putting in hours and hours after their work time. They're volunteering their time. Sometimes they're coaching, because we just can't get the coaches out there, because some of these great coaches that we've had in the past are saying, hey, my kid's pretty decent at this. I'm going to go start my own club team. I'm going to go start my own travel team, and I'm going to pay $5,000 a year for a membership, and then field fees and tournament fees and umpire fees and jerseys, and more power to you. If that's your thing, great. But I think that coaches in general, parents especially, need to really think about it and say, do I want my son or daughter to be in this cutthroat environment at 8 years old, 9 years old? I think middle school, 7th, 8th grade, maybe I'll say 8th grade and beyond. Sure. If you notice your kid is a baller and he can, shoot a jumper, and, he's got Kobe skills, or if he can, throw a football like Joe Montana, or if he, whatever, hit the ball like Mike Trout, absolutely go focus on that. Go get a personal coach, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the everyday kid who who their parents a lot of times can barely afford the program in general, that kid should have access at any time to any program he or she wants to do.
Right.
And that should span across every single program, not even just traditional sports, but I'm talking about lacrosse. I'm talking about, we are basketball, football. Those are kind of your more traditional. What about hockey, field hockey? I think there's so many opportunities, and we get into this situation where there's So I talked about that being number one, just the competing interest, I'll call it, is number one. The
I like that. Yeah.
competing interest being the travel clubs, the club teams, but then also you have the other factors, the video games and the phones and the maybe not the greatest influence of friends, that kind of thing. So that would be probably not my number two. And then kind of touched on this a minute ago, but number three would just be access to being able to play these sports. Um, the economy is rough right now. Everybody's having a tough time. I mean, gas is 4.50 a gallon, actually like 4.60 a gallon here in Arizona. I mean, everything's more expensive. I don't know how people afford homes anymore. So some people are having to truly decide like, hey, we're going to buy groceries this week. So, hey, sorry, little Johnny or little Susie, we can't sign you up for youth basketball or we can't sign you up for soccer. The agencies I've always worked for is, again, very blessed that they take that very seriously, and we try to turn away no kids. So scholarship opportunities, we have some wonderful donors that help with that. There's a lot of hidden sponsors, donors, whatever you want to call it, in each community. And
Yeah.
if they knew a kid couldn't play ball because he or she couldn't afford it, they would pay for it immediately. I think it's just being adventurous enough, being brave enough, being bold enough to ask and say, hey, you know what? I've got a wait list of 100 kids. Can you help me by letting me use your field? Or, hey, I've got 20 kids that just came to me and said they can't play. In the city of Mesa, where I came from, shout out to their youth sports, Roger Ramirez and Augie Perez.
Okay.
They've been able to go out into the community and find some of these uh, charter schools that don't have
Yeah.
a sports program and say, hey, we're going to get a sponsor to have you come out and play in our leagues and play on our fields because they deserve that opportunity. And it's
Love
gone bonkers.
that.
It's gone bonkers
And
in a
if you
good way.
think about most businesses, if you can get 100, $200 or whatever, that could be 4 kids that could play. And if you're a community driven business, which a lot of them are, the pizza parlors are the ones that everybody thinks of, but there's plenty more where that, again, I'm a big believer in the public private partnership. That's what makes this whole thing thrive as we go forward. Looks like we lost Jason. I'm sure he'll reconnect in a second. So if you're out there in Parks and Rec space, don't forget that public-private partnership, whether it's a YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, Parks and Rec, schools, the joint use agreements with schools, all those different factors working together towards a common goal really can make a huge difference in terms of how we lift up the kids in the communities. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a big part. Jason, I was just kind of connecting everybody on that public-private partnership. But I do have a question for you. I don't know if you're able to get back fully and we can hear you. He's just getting back in. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up when you're good to go.
I can hear you.
Okay.
There's a lot of static.
You're breaking up really bad, so it might be the connection. How about now?
Still pretty staticky.
Yeah. You want to go out and try to come back in? Maybe it's what happened. Everybody heard we're talking about this stuff, and all of a sudden, the web is going. Wait a second, they're breaking the web. They're talking about kids' sports, right? Let's try it one more time. Talk about the parents, the coaches, the program. How do you guys get them all on the same page, pull them together so they're all pulling in the right direction, which we all know should be putting the kids centric, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I've been using an organization, I'm sure you're familiar with it, Positive Coaching Alliance. I've been using Positive Coaching Alliance in my various profession and stops for 20 something years. And I think they do a great job of really emphasizing the double goal workshop for the double goal coaches for each coach, talking about that. Sure, of course, everybody wants to win, but we also need to teach them to be good kids and to be good stewards in the community. So Positive Coach Alliance is one, but I think another thing is that Surprise does really well here is consistency. So we really try very hard not to change any rules, any house rules, anything like that, so that the refs that come, they know the rules. They know we're not changing, we're not calling a foul on a 6-year-old age group when they're just trying to, run one way to get a basket or whatever. So consistency, some outside organizations that help, and then also just our staff holding people accountable. We've had here in Surprise, the number of kids that we have in our programs, we have a very limited amount of issues. I mean, we don't have a lot of ejections. We don't have a lot of arguments or anything like that. And I think that's because our staff are not afraid to hold them accountable to what we've put out there and say, look, if you're not going to follow our expectations of putting the kids first and ensuring that every kid plays and ensuring that, every kid is being a good sport, then you're not going to coach with us.
Right.
And there is no wiggle room on it for these guys here. I've seen it a couple times where it's like, hey, we've had to say goodbye to a coach because they weren't on board with our philosophies and wanted to be that win first mentality. And we've said, look, this might just not be the program for you. We want your kid here. We want you to have a good time, but every single kid on this team is important, not just yours. So we got to remember that too.
So diving into that, what would you say is 2 or 3 simple ways that if I'm a parent and I'm supporting my kid and I want the best experience for my kids, forget it. I understand some will go elite and club and travel and some will have personal. I get it. But if I'm going to dive in and I'm going to be a parent, my kids are growing up playing your program. Give me 2 or 3 simple ways that a parent can support their child in your program.
Number one is showing genuine interest. So doing all you can as a parent to get to that practice, even though it may seem monotonous and you're going every single day is the same thing and all that, showing that true interest, being there, cheering them on, even if they make a mistake, they fail forward. And then afterwards, communicating. My son played sports all through high school, all the way down to 4 years old, little league, and up to high school. And one of the things that was always important for me was that he felt like I cared and I actually paid attention. And we would debrief. Calling it a debrief. We would talk in the car afterwards. Our tradition was always, after practice we'd go grab Taco Bell and then go home and watch wrestling because we're nerds. But on the way we would talk like, okay, in that situation when you were pitching, why'd you decide to go with a curveball instead of a fastball? Or when that kid hit the ball, why did you decide to go to that base and that? And I would never criticize. I would just say, hey, okay, got it. Maybe next time you should consider doing this. But
you're breaking up a little bit again, but I got the gist of it. The interesting thing, a lot of people talk about the ride home. And I really believe we have to create a ritual and routine with our kids. It's so important that we have that across the board because if we don't have that ritual routine for our kids, and sometimes, like with my kids, the ritual routine was we didn't talk about it at all. If they want to talk about it, we did, but if not, I just let it be because that's where my kids were at. So I love the fact that you meet the kids where they're at. The tip for the parent is to be engaged, support the coach. I like to say, if you're coaching my kid, I'm going to be your biggest fan too. You know what I mean? I'm going to support you and I'm going to be as like-minded as possible. When you, as the coach, say, throw it to the cutoff, guess what I'm saying? Throw it to the cutoff. You know what I'm saying? I'm not throw it home. That's not going to work because like I've said before, that's going to put my child in a position that has to decide between you, the coach, or the parent that feeds them. That's going to set them up for failure, right? We know that. We have to find a way to be like-minded with the coaches. Now, if you're a rec level coach, you guys bring on coaches. Give me a couple of habits that you think would help them to be able to build trust and connection with the parents, the kids, and the community.
I think being a vocal leader, no matter if you're coaching 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds, you're a leader to those kids, you're a leader to those parents, and quite frankly, you're a leader in the community because I have a colleague that used to say, spend time with your kids or someone else will. And to me, that really resonated because it's so simplistic. Say that again.
That's a great quote. Say that again. That's a great quote.
I gotta give him credit. Marta Stern, a school board member in the city of Fontana, said, spend time with your kids or someone else will. And it seems simplistic, but let's be real, man. There's a lot of parents out there that aren't spending that time with their kids and they're going off and doing things that they should not be doing. Instead of you send your kid to a program where they're going to have coaches that are background checked, that are going through training, that are safe and the whole thing. So you're a leader in the community. I went way offshoot there, but so being a vocal leader.
Yeah.
Being a vocal leader and being somebody that the parents feel like they can trust is huge. And we really encourage that here is to be vocal, have your meetings, communicate effectively is another one. Whether if you're sending out a text, we use team sidelines, so they're able to communicate on that pretty effectively. But just making sure that parents are up to date on things, because I think if your parents and your participants and your players, if they have trust in you, if they believe that you're doing all you can to make this a great experience, they're going to be a lot more likely to jump on board and not be the parent that's yelling, throw it to third instead of the cutoff, or not saying, hey, pass the ball 3 times and then shoot it instead of shoot the ball, little Jimmy, little Kimmy. Like, they're going to be much more inclined to jump on board your mission.
So what do you tell a parent that says, I've never coached before. I played 20 years ago, but yeah, you need somebody. So I'm a little nervous to do this. What do you tell them?
Well, first of all, my philosophy on that is if you pass your background check, and we do a thorough job here in background and screen our folks. If you can pass that, and if you can breathe, you can be a coach. Because at the end at the end of the day, we want coaches here that are doing it because they want to do it, not having their arm twisted. Like, hey, if you don't coach this team, we may not have this league. I hate having to do that. We don't have to here because we have a lot of coaches step up. We have some coaches here, and I'm not even joking, that coach 4 teams on any given league. It's insanity, but they do it because they care. They want to be here. So somebody that would say, hey, I've never coached before, I'd say, awesome. We'll bring you in. We've got tons of resources. Typically, if something like that happens, we have staff on site at all of our locations. We'll have a staff member kind of mirror them and be like, hey, try this drill, or hey, let's try that, or here's how you do some attention getters.
I've got to loan you something from a very good friend of mine, Erin Niemeyer. She was a rec supervisor and got up in that. She said when the parent says, I've never coached before, and she would say, great, you have no bad habits. It's perfect, right? It's like, I don't have to worry about you being Bobby Knight out there or whatever and kicking dirt in the whatever. Instead, this is where we go. So I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Sometimes though, and you can really build that person and get them as to be a believer in their coaching every single season. They're coaching soccer, football, basketball, baseball.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I run a league here in where I live, and I've been involved for, I guess, 14 years. And we have 2,400 kids play each year. My kids are 24 and 22. But you know what? I get to give back and be around and watch this thing just flourish. So it's a really cool way. And you know what's great? You're probably the same way, but the connections you make as an adult with other adults that are like-minded and giving back, those are good people, right?
I coached Little League growing up. When my son Nathan was growing up, I coached Little League for about 8 years in a row. And the gentlemen on that team that helped me coach, the ladies on that team that helped team mom with my amazing wife Liz, they are still close family friends with us. Even back, it's so adorable because we put up pictures on Facebook of like, oh, remember when Joey was 6 and he got the game-winning hit, and now they're big monstrous adults, right? And it's right. Sad, but it's also like, wow, we really did have an impact because those kids turned out okay. So I agree. The bond you form with some of these parents and some of the other coaches are lifelong and should be really cherished.
Yeah. All right, I want to go away from the parents and that side of things, and I want to lean a little bit more to leadership for the Parks and Rec departments, right? You've done this a long time, and I'm so grateful for you coming on, Jason, from all the way from Surprise, Arizona.
Surprise,
exactly. Probably surprise there too, but I bet the weather's a surprise. But I don't want to get into that one right now. Okay, so let's talk habits. Let's talk about how you can help, because you know what? If there were more Parks and Rec that did what y'all do, I think there'd be more kids playing. My guess is on a national average, you probably have more kids per capita playing sport than others that are not doing a similar model. So what would you suggest? How can you help a Parks and Rec leadership to lean more into, whether you run it in-house or through public-private partnerships, whatever, the rec model versus the elite club model?
Yeah, no, great question. Great question. And this is a thing that I was really pushing for in Mesa before I left, and that is really, you have to, if you're at the level you're at, if you're a level coordinator, you may have to move this up the chain, or even at my level, talking to the director about it, but getting the buy-in from not just the department leadership, but from city leadership, because ultimately it's going to get political. There's going to be
your mic is still breaking up right now. Again, I don't know what it is. If it could be our connection across the board. I don't know. Sometimes mine, I'll be speaking, all of a sudden it like picks up a bird outside. So I don't know if it's worse or better. Go ahead and try it again.
Is that any better?
Not really. We may have to have you sing a song, just to check in with it about. Yeah.
I definitely don't want that.
Yeah. We'll keep testing, but I think that just what you're saying is basically to work together, and you've got to get the coordinators, the people at the top, to buy into what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, whether it be your city council, your town leadership, your board of directors, whatever the case may be, you got to get their buy-in and express to them, while it's important, and I don't want the travel club teams to be emailing me hate mail right now, but it's important to have that niche, but it should be just that, a niche. It shouldn't be the norm. It should be, hey, we're going to give 5% of the field usage to these club teams because 95% of the population is probably more apt to the park and rec based non-competitive type programs. So I think the biggest thing I can stress is just really trying to tell your story. Do PowerPoints as much as you can at commission meetings or at council meetings and say, we had 1,000 kids in our program this year, and we noticed that there was a 10% increase in health results, or there was a 10% increase in participation.
And the interesting, yeah, there's a lot of interesting piece, which is a little bit of a struggle, in the sense that the cities. Let's be honest. There has to be an economic scenario. If I rent the field, I get this. I totally understand that. But there also has to be the other side of it. And I think that ability to evaluate that a little bit. Would you talk a little bit about how you guys, because it seems to me you guys have really leaned into a better way to go.
Oh, absolutely. From what I understand, it was probably 2 or 3 directors ago made the decision to say, look, we are going to be the youth sports program in the city of Surprise. We are going to run baseball. We are going to run soccer. We are going to run baseball. And you get these kids that come in at 4 or 5 years old and start playing in our programs. And then, believe it or not, they turn into adults, and then they put their kids in our program, and they understand, like, there's some people here that probably have never, some kids in our programs right now that have probably never played in a traditional little league, and that's okay because we offer a very similar program, if not, well, I will say better, because it's very much instructional based, and it's learning and developing skills, as opposed to, again, one of my staff members last night had a meeting for the older kids, the 60-90 field kids, right? And you'd think that you'd have a bunch of coaches coming in there and wondering, is this competitive? Is this no? They were just there like, okay, cool. So when do we start practicing? How many times can we practice? What kind? So the niche that we've found here has been established for many years. I'm going to say at least 10 years, maybe 15. I've only been here 6 months, so I don't know the full history. But what I do know is that the staff have continued to take that model and said, we are not going to divert from this. They did some sampling of, like, they called it Rec Plus. So it was like a little bit above competitive, but not quite club. And I think that when you make that reference here in our city or amongst our team, it's kind of, I don't know if we want to go back to that, because it's a completely different experience. And there is nothing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, nothing here in youth sports is broke. Can it be enhanced? Of course, anything can be enhanced.
Sure.
But the model is something, and I'm not kidding, the model that we have here, I think if other city leaders, and I'm talking all the way up to the city manager, and city council, if they saw how it works here, I think other cities would start to migrate to this kind of model, because you do have, it's what you want it to be. We design it, we make it what we want it to be. If we want to make changes, it's for the betterment of the residents of the city of Surprise, not because we want to make an extra buck renting out that field or trying to develop the next, Mike Trout on the baseball field.
Yeah, I really look forward. I know we've talked about maybe getting me involved or coming down and getting a little more involved in the Arizona Parks and Rec Association or whatever groups. I think this conversation, starts here, but ultimately, you need to be at NRPA talking about this, or NAYS talking about this, because what you guys do and how it was built, it takes a commitment, and it might be a financial dip at first. All right, look, we're coming up. We got about a minute left. I just want to dive into one more piece for real quick, and that is competition, development, participation. How do you deal with that? I'm a big believer, if you're focused on the effort rather than the results, that's when the results will eventually show up, right? Because if you're worried about wins and losing rather than worried about winning kids, that's when you lose. You?
Well, we don't keep standings in our leagues. We keep score, but we don't keep standings. And I think that's a really valuable lesson, because kids need to learn you're going to win and you're going to lose, and your effort is going to determine whether you win or lose at the end of the day. And so, hey, you know what? Look at that scoreboard. We came up a point short, but guess what? You guys, last time we played them, you lost by 15. This time you lost by 1. Who cares? Guess what? Next year we'll beat them, or whatever. So the competition and the development can coexist, but I think as rec programs, the development must be the absolute most important thing. And our leadership here, our director and our assistant director, they believe in that very, very wholeheartedly, which makes it easier for us to continue to find ways. We have camps that we do in the off season so that kids can get familiar with just how to do the basic
Yes.
fundamentals, so that we're not having to, I don't want to say waste that time, but we're not having to take that time at the first practice on, here is a glove, here is how you throw the baseball.
Yeah.
But
Where is right field? Where is first base?
Exactly. It's
Look,
just
we're
the
running up
essentials.
against it. Do me a favor. I know there's people out there are going to go, I want to find Jason. I want to talk to him about what's going on. Where do they find you?
Yeah, I'm not hard to find. LinkedIn, Jason Hendrix. Email me, jason.hendrix@surpriseaz.gov. Call me. Aaron, feel free to put my cell phone number out there. I love having these kind of conversations, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we get you out to APRA teams. And if you have connections to NRPA or NAys, I would be beyond honored to speak at one of those, because this message needs to go far and wide.
It does. Hey, everybody, I appreciate everybody for sticking with us, navigating through this. Jason, come on, man. Great conversation. Look forward to working with you as you dive in, and we'll get you back on as we keep going forward from there. I'm going to remind everybody here to tell your kids to play hard and have fun, and that goes for you as well. Get out and play. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Jason.
Amen.
Take care.
Have a great day.
It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all. The passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you. For showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.